of the other big changes is FCIQ. There's got a big overhaul to tactics, which I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this seems like there's a lot of inputs, a lot of information, a lot of things you can kind of tweak and develop to kind of make your own kind of tactical fingerprint, or whatever you want to call it. I was wondering if you had any general kind of tips or tricks for players as they're kind of taking on this new system for the first time and trying to kind of get to grips with it.
Yeah. So the first one is understanding that through player roles are one component of FCIQ, you can literally customize how your team is going to behave when they have the ball and when they don't. So basically, when you see your formation, you say you do a 4-4-2, that formation is the positioning when you don't have the ball. But now, through player roles, you can tell them now, okay, I want my fullback to become basically a midfielder, and I want my winger to drop back, and you can customize that and basically create another formation when you do have the ball, when you have the ball, and basically your team is going to be adapting. That's something that you didn't have before. So before it was just one formation, you can do some tweaks, that's it. So now it's basically your defensive formation and your modified formation through player roles. So that's something that you need to basically get to understand as you play more. That's a big one. The other one is just for those that are more casual players, is FCIQ can sound like, oh, it's tactics, oh, it's gonna get deep and I don't know enough about football perhaps. It's designed in a way where if you just want the basics of team tactics, it's super simple. Literally, you just change a couple of things and then you can experience already a few things. So it's not. You don't need to be a master. Or you don't need to be a Pep Guardiola. But if you want to really get deep into tactics, your Pep Guardiola mind now has a big impact in gameplay.
Yeah. It's like that meme of I am Jose Mourinho. So if you do something really good in FCIQ, that's how you'll feel. It's like
yes. So yeah. Very. The key is that you will see in gameplay everything you set up for your tactics is easier. It's a lot more noticeable in gameplay. So it's easier to see in gameplay. So that's the
yeah. If you had kind of with all these changes coming in, I was wondering if you had any kind of general tips or tricks for players as they jump into career mode this year.
So one is definitely, customize it to your own liking. So with us bringing in the new customization options, really make it how you would enjoy career mode. So if you're a player who says like, I like scouting in general, but I don't want to spend a week to wait for the results, I want them immediately, you now can do that. So if you want to know immediately the top players OVR, you can. But also if you feel like, hey, training is something I don't enjoy doing, so you can turn it off, or you maybe enjoy it and want it more realistic. So basically what the tips are, if you want a more realistic career mode, go into the settings, put it on simulation settings, put transfers on realistic, the opponents will be way harder to negotiate with. Put training plans on realistic where the recovery rate is similar, is like really slower. Or if you want just a fun casual mode without thinking of all these things, make it that way. So that's the first. The other is there might be some interesting talents in my home team club, like Eintracht Frankfurt has a really young prospect named Can Uzun, who's an 18-year-old prospect who might be really interesting to play with. And just the other one is really invest in the youth tournaments and play the youth tournaments. You will see amazing growth of the players, and it's really fun to play with.
As you kind of pre-answered my next question, I was going to ask about Wonder Kids, which is kind of always loads of interest in who are the best young players. You've mentioned one there. Any others that you kind of recommend having an eye on?
So I can, but the other one is with us bringing in 90 more countries in youth scouting, like really try to think about who could be, interesting areas for youth players, like where could an interesting striker come from. So we reworked also a bit in youth scouting, which players are where, which positions are really interesting. So that's the other tip I can give, like think about who might be interesting, and don't always go for the obvious, because we all know if I want a striker I can go to Brazil, but maybe there's some African countries that are really interesting to scout for strikers, so that maybe as a hint where you can find interesting players.